It's time to be woke. Take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the fact.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Monday morning, post March for Medicare for All. In my eyes, a very successful event. And kudos to all of the volunteers and the people that put this on. It's a very strong message. Lots of really good enthusiasm, lots of really good speakers, and just a great overall event, a good start for the progressive movement in organizing. I think we can use this as a template, and it will only get better from here if we continue to be diligent. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We've got a big show for you today. We're going to talk a little more in depth about the march and the takeaways from that. We are also going to discuss the oligarchs and their bad behavior and them using their spreading around money to cause havoc for the normal everyday person in society, which is always fun. So without further delay, I am going to introduce to you the lovely and talented and queen of low bandwidth, Miss Kerri Barber. Good morning, Kerri.
Hey, good morning, Andy. Yeah, still a low bandwidth. We're working on it, but personal milestone this morning. We are 100% now on solar, now with more solar, complete and utter solar. So we got that going for us, but no bandwidth. So we're getting there. But yeah, so on the March for Medicare for All stuff, I definitely want to get into that because there were some amazing things that happened that obviously corporate media didn't cover. But let me correct that. 23 seconds of the coverage this weekend was on the marches for Medicare for All. Lots of coverage on Cuba and their marches, nothing on really March for Medicare for All. So not surprised, and neither should you be. But first thing I want to talk about this morning, we had another personal milestone that happened. So Andy, this very rarely do I talk about my family, my close friends, but this time I have to. I feel like I have to because there's a lot going on, and I'm definitely going to cover this in more detail. But typically when I do political action and all of these things, working for candidates, I make sure that my close family members are not connected to me on social media in any way, shape, or form. And the reason for that is to protect them. So while I'm more than happy to go full steam ahead and get the phone calls, the harassment, the death threats, I don't necessarily want that to happen to my family and friends. So I go through really, really great strides to make sure that they are at least insulated. But with everything that's going on in this country, particularly if you happen to be a person of color, a Black person, every time you walk out the door, you are at risk. And it happened to my family. My son, for those of you who don't know, is Black. And growing up, every time he walked out the door, I was terrified. And we were part of those parents who, when you give your child a driving lesson, particularly if they're Black or brown, you have to give them that 1 hour speech every time that if you are pulled over, here are the things that you must do that are above and beyond what a white kid would have to do. And the reason I need you to do these things is I need you to give me time to get to you so that you don't die. So yeah, we did all of that. And there were a couple times where those particular lectures actually saved his life. So over the weekend, here's the story as I understand it, and I'm definitely going to dig more into this one. But my son was out with a girlfriend at a local watering hole, and this particular watering hole in Illinois, in order to get to the bar, it's on an island. You have to wait for a barge to come. And while he was there with his girlfriend, they were yelling to some friends, "Hey, hurry up, it's the barge is coming," this type of thing. When we're going to call her Karen. Karen decided that she didn't like a black man being loud, that he was too loud. And how dare he be too loud? So Karen decided to get in his face. I mean, in his face. So that particular behavior is called menacing, and it's illegal. So Karen didn't stop there. Karen decided, because he waved away the finger in her that she was putting in his face, that she was now going to put her hand on his throat and threaten him. That's assault. It's also illegal. When my sons didn't put a hand on her again, said, "Hey, come get your girl," her boyfriend came over and decided that that this particular black man was not going to talk to her that way. So he came at him with the intent of doing some harm. So obviously, self-defense being what it is, my son swung back at him, knocked that guy out. Next thing you know, 4 more guys jumped him. So he ended up with 2 black eyes, not a broken nose, but the picture that you're seeing, I barely recognize him at all. So he sent me that picture, and it took me a minute. I'm like, yeah, that's him. So he had to get stitches. And where this ties in, not just to social justice and the intersectionality, or however you want to put it, he refused to go in the ambulance, even though he was covered in blood, covered, shoes, clothes, everything. He refused to go in the ambulance because he was terrified of the expense. So what he ended up doing was calling an Uber and paying $50, holding the bandages to his face so that he could get to the hospital and get seen. So for me, not only is this personal, but first off, I almost lost my son to a Karen. And the part that I really want to get into more is when the police arrived to take statements, they told my son that he should not press charges because the Karen, who was a credible witness in their eyes, said that he was the aggressor. Now, for those of you who don't understand your right to a summons and all of those sorts of things, for the police officers to say that, they can say it, but it's an outright lie. Second, it doesn't matter whether there are more witnesses who are willing to lie. You have the right to get a summons and to pursue the matter. The police officers cannot dissuade you from doing that. So what I am going to actively do is get a copy of their report, their incident report, and I'm going to find out who this Karen is, and I'm going to find out who all her friends are, and I'm going to find out who these officers were and why they felt it was appropriate to remove his civic rights from him in that moment while he's bleeding. Again, we almost lost him. So this is what's going on in my world right now, which is very similar to a lot of our audience, very similar to what a lot of people go through. And I just wanted to bring this front and center in the context of the intersection of civil rights, due process, equal protection, racism, and Medicare for all, and why these things are so important for all of us. So I hope to have more on this particular story as I can dig into it. But I just wanted you to know that this is happening everywhere, right? And yeah, it's just it was a moment in my household where, yet again, as a parent, you fear that something's going to happen. You're going to get that phone call that this will be the next name on the list, or maybe they won't talk about him because he's not black enough, or well, whatever it is. But I just wanted to bring this to you and sit with it, see what you think of it, as we're talking about all of these progressive policies that are meant to help everybody. So that is my introductory rant for this morning. So yeah.
So, Kerri, can I ask you
Let's
a
get
quick
into
question?
Yeah.
This is in the Chicago area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
North suburbs.
Just for reference. Just want to get to a couple of the comments here first. First of all, Mike Toller, good friend of our show, is saying good morning. Good morning, Mike. We also have James, JB, from Fred Hampton Leftists, who also said, good morning, Kerri. Thank you for telling your story, and said he's so sorry. And
thank you.
James is, from what I know, little that I've got to know from James, he is such a incredible human being and so sensitive to these things. And he and Megs went out to locally to their Medicare for All March, and he made an impassioned speech, which was amazing. And so if you get a chance, please go listen to it. He's such an amazing speaker. Plus, he is the master of great facial expressions. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Now, as well, I'd like to say we had a comment from Natalie Williams. Good morning, Natalie. Ambulance rides are notoriously pricey, and that is the understatement of the year. We also have Joe Nice, Mr. DJ. Good morning, Joe. Medicare for all. That's a very good statement, especially 2 days after the marches. And we appreciated you speaking on behalf of Medicare for All as well, Joe. Thank you for tuning in today. And we have a question from Nadia. She asks, was this an injury from the Medicare for All? And no, I believe this was after the I think it was the evening, was it not, Kerri? The evening after the marches?
That's correct. That was Saturday night that this happened.
Yeah, we also have Assad and Black Freud that have tuned as well. They're also saying thank you for sharing your story, Kerri. And it's heart-wrenching. It absolutely is. And it's such an affront to you as a mother, right? I just imagine the turmoil that you're feeling right now from all of this, right?
Well, like I said, it was, it was an educational experience for me having a Black son as a white woman in this country. And for those of you who don't know my background, I didn't really grow up in this country. So I came back to an education of just how racist the United States really is. It started in Florida. Oh boy, Florida. So this was all a part of my education on how to be an American and what it actually means. So then, I have this son that I love dearly and would give my life for, and have to deal with the fact that other people hate him for no reason other than, he looks different or he's not something enough. And that gives them license to, he's almost been hit by a car, all of these things that we've seen. And it's, it always goes back to, it's not quite overt racism. So you can't really put your finger on it. But in our household, we would nod and go, yeah, we know. Right. And the thing that I was chatting about this morning, and I want to get into a little bit later, is the thing that we taught my son is not all Black people are your friends and not all white people are your enemy. And you will know the difference based on what they do or do not do. And the particular area that he was in the northern suburbs in Lake County in Chicago, very, very racist. And most of it's very subtle, and a lot of it is led by Black people. And what I mean by that is there's a sheriff up there, who was running recently for the mayor, who is an open 3%er. That's a militia group up there, 3% member. And he's more than happy to cavort with other overt racists and deny the racism on particular in the police force and in the area itself. So he's happy to ask as an enforcer. So here's a Black person who is actually working for and advocating for the racist policies. So this is the particular area that he's in. So when these officers responded, of course, I'm like, okay, which officers came out? Because I know them. I know who's doing what. So yeah, it's this has been 20 something now, 25. So it has been a lifetime of experience watching all of this happen in a country where you carry the passport, you carry the birth certificate for that country, but you don't really feel like a part of that country. It's kind of surreal. So that's my story, and I hope to get into it a little bit more. But yeah.
But it's and I know, and I have a daughter. She's 22, and I learned really early on in her life when after she was born that as a parent, you're the ultimate guardian of this kid, right? And it's almost instinctual that your number one job is to protect that child from danger, from harm, right? Whatever harm that might be, whether it's physical harm or emotional harm. And if they come to harm, there's a part in the back of your brain that basically says you failed. You didn't protect your child. And it might not even be your fault in any way, that something that you couldn't prevent. But instinctually, you said, I wasn't there for my child. I wasn't there to protect them. And that's a very heavy burden to carry as any parent. At least that's the way I feel about it. And I just assume that a lot of other parents feel that same way. And I imagine you do as well, Kerri. But the other thing that must just be horrible feeling is that, this happened thousands of miles away, right? How do you do that?
It's a 2-hour plane ride, and he knows at any moment I can be on a plane right back there. No problem, no questions asked. And depending on how this information goes, whether my FOIAs are responded to in a timely manner by law, I may be on a plane back to be on the ground and actually start asking questions about what happened, why it happened, and make sure that this never happens again.
Right, exactly. And there's just one other comment that I wanted to touch on here, because there was a question from Village Idiot. I love that handle. Village Idiot, you are in the right place this morning. He asked, can you guys get a video from the bar? From what I understand, Kerri just explained, you didn't see it or hear it. This bar is on an island, and you have to catch a ferry from the shore across to the bar. And apparently this happened in that queue line as they were getting ready to board the ferry to go across. Am I correct in that, Kerri?
Yes, that is correct, but it's not necessarily remote. So there are a couple of things that I'm going to be looking for. Number one is I want the incident report. I want to see how the officers wrote it up. I want to see what the paramedic report said. And then there are ways to get an idea of any CCTV videos in the area where this happened, as well as cell phones. So in my background in marketing, I know that security uses this, but in marketing you use it too. There's a technique called fencing. And when any cell phone enters an area that you have purchased fencing for, you can send a direct ad to that cell phone. So you would use this in terms of a big event at a convention center. Anybody who walks within a few feet of the convention center would get your ad, things like that. So based on that kind of technology, I'm going to do some checking to see which cell phones were actually recording video between this time and this time, and who owns them. So yeah, I'm going to be looking into that. So there's this old adage that I really, really love, that says you don't want to piss off somebody who buys ink by the barrel. And that was in reference to journalists who used to print in print media. Yeah, I'm an investigative journalist. I'm going to find this shit. Absolutely.
They didn't know who to fuck with.
Guarantee it. No, but it's just, it proves a point, right? Because if this happens to my kid, it's not just that I'm mad and really worried about my own kid. I'm worried about the next kid, right? And that is what I'm going for. I want to make sure that this particular Karen is held accountable, because we're all about accountability, right? And then that the officers are actually maybe counsel that you don't say that kind of shit and remove citizens' rights to their own civil rights. Yeah, no, I'm not. And what I'm concerned about is the next kid and the kid after that and the kid after that. I don't want another parent sitting in the place that I'm sitting in right now. Yeah, so that's my motivation.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
Thank you, Village Idiot.
There's a few more people that are weighing in. Jen and Sang and Joe. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Kerri. I just let's realize, a couple of quick points that originally police forces in the United States were brought into existence by white people that were trying to police slaves, right? That's the original police force.
Right.
So that's a very important point to remember, right? When we look back at what happened to George Floyd and all of the protests that came up with that, and how we thought that the police would maybe, back off a little bit because of the pressure. And what did we see? No, we saw police forces ramping up, right? Angry. How dare we tell them what to do, right? So we're going to go harder. And that's ridiculous.
Agreed. And, and it's one of these things that I feel strongly about. I happen to be sitting in a state that ended qualified immunity. Qualified immunity no longer exists in New Mexico. Qualified immunity does not exist in New Mexico. And for the last 3 months, I have been going out to other leaders asking them, do you want me to show you how to do this in your state? I can show you at a local municipal level. I can show you at a city level, at a county level, or at a state level. I can show you how to do the exact same thing that we did here. And I have gotten nobody taking me up on it. Why? This is not hard. And what this means for me as a taxpayer is the next time that there is a civil rights lawsuit, a wrongful death lawsuit, I, as a taxpayer, do not have to pay for it. The officer does. The Fraternal Order of Police does. The judge does. The politician does. Not me. That's accountability. So it's this topic, I'm getting emotional. It's another topic that I am so fed up with all of our leaders on the left and everyone else. I don't know how many times I can get out there and say, I will give you my time. I will give you everything that I have to make sure that you have this. Quit begging Congress. Do it yourself. Do it your damn self. Get it the fuck done. Because we keep begging for them. And this goes back to the March for Medicare for All. There were 2 Congresswomen who responded. 2. Cori Bush came out in DC, and my Congresswoman was there. Not only was she there, but I actually got an exclusive interview with her, while she gave an impassioned speech in Albuquerque, New Mexico, about her own mother who has struggled with access to healthcare, almost lost her life, and is still paying on a $15,000 MRI. She gave that speech, and then I got to pull her aside and talk to her. So this is New Mexico Congresswoman Stansbury, newly elected, just got to Congress, just signed on as a sponsor for Medicare for All. And I asked her, are you content to be a sponsor? Are you content? Or are you going to push your own colleagues to the left and get a hearing on it? And on video, and I've got a link in it, a link in the chat here, she pledged to do that. So guess what? This is my Congresswoman. I'm going to hold her to it. I'm not begging. I'm not going to ask politely. I'm going to make sure that she does that, because she's there to represent not just me, but her mother and all of my neighbors. I'm not asking for permission. I am demanding. So these are some of the things that came out during Medicare for All. It's very nice for all of us to get together. And as she said, and others said, we should continue to do that. However, now we need them to step up and do this, because in my state, where people have taken responsibility for their own government and we got rid of the neoliberals, in my state, we have all of the progressive policies in place, with the exception of the federal jobs guarantee and Medicare for All. So I need the rest of you to get with the program, figure out what's going on, embrace your power, and get it done. Because I can't do those two in my state. I need it at a federal level. So
Absolutely.
I would invite the rest of you to come together. Let's get it done. So
Yes.
I don't know, Andy, your take.
Absolutely. People have lost sight of the fact of what actually democracy, especially in America, is supposed to look like, right? We all know, especially on the left, that the politicians represent money. They represent the oligarchs, who represent the elitists, because they're bought and paid for. We know that. The way democracy is supposed to happen is all of the people in an area get together. They elect a person to represent them in Washington. That person goes to Washington and represents that area, right? The problem is, if you're in Colorado or South Dakota or Kentucky or Mississippi or wherever, AOC is not your elected representative. Whoever your representative is, if they're not doing what you want them to do, then that's where you direct your ire. That's the way democracy in America is supposed to look like. If your own rep isn't doing what you want them to do, then you have to let them know that they are not representing you and that they need to do a better job. That's your job, right? AOC is not responsible. AOC has her own people that she represents. If they don't like the way she's doing things, then they need to tell her, right? There's how many different reps in Congress, Kerri? Like 556 or 534 or however many there are.
Yes.
And they each represent one area. And they each represent a single area in the United States, right? If we had a mass movement of people calling their reps, holding their feet to the fire and say, we need Medicare for all, put the pressure on. That's how you make change from the ground up. We tell them in no uncertain terms,
Agreed.
We are not happy and we need you to represent us and not the elitist class in America. That's how you make change.
Great segue, Andy. Let's talk about the elitist class, right? Because these are the folks, and there were some interesting statistics, and this is coming from a user, or not a user, my apologies. This is coming from a viewer-submitted article. Johnny Hill sent this to me last week. It's a comprehensive series of reports on income inequality, as well as how the billionaire class has changed in the last 20 years. And there were some interesting findings on this. So I wanted to put this into the context of Medicare for All and all of these policies, and who are our Congress members actually listening to? And Andy, you've said it many times, donor class, donor class, donor class. Who are these people? Because right now, the only names that we really know is like Elon and Bezos, but there are some other families that you need to know about, because I guarantee you, while you're sitting on your butt talking about, oh, I can't, I don't vote, oh, they're in there. They're in there doing this. And here's the secret that you don't know. You have more power than they do, if you will but just embrace it, because they have to spend millions on lobbying. You can show up at your congressperson's front door and you can say, hey, I need a meeting with you, and bring 10 of your friends. Hey, we want to talk to you. We work for you, because that vote is so precious. When enough of us get out and vote and actually do what we're supposed to, take back our representation, then your vote weighs so much further than the millions of dollars from the donor class. How do I know this? Because every time in Chicago or across the country they tried to rig a vote, the more people who showed up to vote squashed it, because there's only so much rigging you can do. When you have enough people out there marching and doing all of this and voting, you cannot rig an election. I've seen it. So please don't come at me with this bullshit about our vote doesn't matter. It does. It absolutely does. I have seen elections turn on 35 votes. It's amazing. And you own it. It's your power. So let's talk about the oligarchs and the donor class. So Andy, this is the first slide where we're actually naming names, and I did put the link to these reports, and I really hope that you will go read this, because the data doesn't lie, and it's so powerful. So thank you to Johnny from House of Public dang it.
You're so close, Kerri. You're so close.
I know. House of Public Discord, because he actually wrote about this and he published it, and I did include a link to that. But Oligarchs in Politics, this is a fascinating study on not only who these people are, but how much their wealth has increased over the pandemic. Right. So this is kind of amazing. So in this particular slide, here are the names that you need to know. Bush, B-U-S-C-H, as in Anheuser-Busch. Mars Candy Company. Coke, the Koch brothers, you know them. The Walton family. All of the Walton children's who now share it. And there's a couple other names that you need to know. So Cox from Cox Media, Brown, the Waltons again, Marriott, Simplot is a chemical company. These people have their own PACs. See, they have to spend their money because they don't have the numbers behind them. They don't have boots on the ground. So they got to spend money. But you together are so much more powerful, and you don't even know it. And this is part of where I get frustrated. So they had to create these PACs and give millions. And the most that they can do with their PAC money is advertising on radio, television, and in the paper, and then paying for those little collateral pieces that candidates hand out. That's all that they could do, because they cannot yet buy votes, right? So, but you get to vote for free, right? So there's, well, all of us, we have to wait 6 hours in the hot sun, and it's now illegal in some states to bring water. And so this is what we have to go through, and all that they try to do to keep you from that vote. So then the other names that are on here are Timothy Mellon, Ronald Lauder from Estee Lauder. Ladies, gentlemen, are you buying Estee Lauder products? Okay, and then the Duncans. These are millions and millions spent on PACs. Then my favorite, J.B. Pritzker, who is now governor of Illinois, himself a grifter. This is a guy, for those of you outside of Illinois and who don't know, in one of his mansions, he removed all of the toilets. I think he took out, I want to say it was 10 or 12 toilets in this. That's how many bathrooms his house had. And he took them out because the property tax assessor was coming. And when the property tax assessor gets there and sees there's no toilets, he has to rule that it is unlivable in this particular mansion. And so he got a lower tax rate because it was uninhabitable. So then he just had the toilets reinstalled. This guy is governor of Illinois now. And all the Democratic Party thought that this was just great. Yeah, just great. So every time a millionaire or a billionaire shifts their tax responsibility at a state level, you pay it. That bill's still due at a state level. So what they said is, I'm not going to pay my share. It was everybody at dinner there to split the check. And the billionaire goes, I only ate most of my dinner, so I'm just not going to pay it. The rest of you pick up my tab. That's J.B. Pritzker. Okay, and then former Ohio governor, James Middleton Cox, former Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon, former Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker, again, all the family. All of these people are in politics. You know how they got in there? They filled out a piece of paper to run as a candidate. That's it. You can do that. You absolutely can do that. You can run every time. Absolutely, because one of the tricks of the Democratic Party, which I think is hilarious, is they will put up ghost candidates to split the vote. And one guy in Georgia put his wife on as a candidate and didn't tell her. It was like a surprise. It was like this cute little wedding surprise that he gave her. She almost fucking won. She almost won. Didn't campaign, nothing. She just put her name out there. It was on the ballot. She got like 25,000 votes.
My God.
So
that's insane.
Right. It is. So I want you to see this in the context of, these are your oligarchs. This is the donor class. These are the people, if the Marriott guy calls the White House, he's probably going to get through. If a Walton, a die-hard red Walton calls AOC's office, they're going to get through. But you have a congressional office in your district. You can make an appointment. You can go see them. You get first priority as a constituent at that office. I guarantee you it's within a few miles of where you live. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you bring all your friends, make it a party, bake cookies, go? You have so much power that you don't even realize. And I want you to see it. You have to see it, because we are out here dying. And until you realize how much power and influence you have and how much money the billionaire class has to spend to silence you, then maybe you'll get it. All right, so let's move on. Next slide, Andy. So this was interesting. This is where it got pretty gory to me, the pandemic profits. So I am one of those people that have, I'm still on Robinhood. I need to switch it, but I have penny stocks. And when I say penny stocks, I mean, I literally spend like 35 cents on a stock and just hold it and, do trading, whatever. During the Trump administration, my $35 ended up being like $1,600 because of the way the volatility of the stock market. So if my penny stocks graduated like that, what if you had millions already in the stock market? Well, this is kind of what happened. So all of the oligarch families, these dynasties, and we're not talking new money, not like Bezos, who profited because of the pandemic. We're talking about the dynasties. These are the people who get invited to all of the fundraisers, red, blue, whatever. Here's how their money went. They made bank over what was going on. And you'll remember from Congress, when we had members of Congress who were getting briefings and then left the briefings and made a stock trade. And that was Republican and Democrat. Dianne Feinstein, looking at you, girl. They should be in jail right now, but they're not. And why? Because there's an ethics committee that other Congress members sit on who said, no, they did nothing wrong. That is not a legal entity. Just so you know, it's just an ethics committee. All they can do is censure somebody. So all of these members of Congress are still sitting in their cushy little jobs after making these trades. Well, here's why. Because all of these families who are supporting them don't care. But what if you cared? What if Dianne Feinstein was your congressional rep? Would you care? Would you be at her office and say, hey, you know what? I really need you to step down. And don't worry about the seat, because the way that it works in the state of California, if you step down and resign, as you should, then the party gets to appoint a new person to fill out your term. That's the right ethical thing to do. Don't you think, Diane? And there were 6 members of Congress who did this, on the right and on the left. Nobody challenged them. Why? Did you sit back and just tweet about it? Why didn't you go to their office? Why didn't you have a friendly conversation? Because you are the boss. These people represent you. This is a servant job. Well, these people didn't complain. The Walton family, the Koch, the Mars, Cargo McMillan, Lauder, as in the Estee Lauder family, S.C. Johnson, Edward Johnson, the Cox family, Pritzker family, and the Newhouse family. They made bank. So they're more than happy with the way things are going, and not really interested in a policy like Medicare for all. Are you? So there were a couple of statistics that I thought were pretty interesting. And just again, this report came from Oligarchs in the Donor Class, the Silver Spoon Oligarchs of America's Wealth Dynasties. And one of the authors, there were a bunch of co-authors, I thought it was interesting. Chuck Collins is a director of the program on inequality and the common good. He studies where he is the author of a new book on the wealth and the billionaires who pay millions to hide trillions. They're making small investments. So he is also at inequality.org. That's inequality.org, O-R-G. There's a lot of different reports and contents out there, and they always cite their sources, and they have the data to back it up. So please go out there and look at it. So what I thought was interesting on this particular piece was, while all eyes are on Elon and Bezos, these dynastic families have been thriving. And here's a quote from the report. Only 4 of the top 20 wealth dynasties are new to the list since 1983. So for some of our audience members, you weren't even born in 1983. We've been tracking dynasties, family dynasties in this country for a long time. So only 4 on the new list were not on the list in 1983. And between 2015 and 2020, the only family to see its rank decline significantly was the opioid-pushing Sackler family, which fell from number 16 to number 30. So they're not wiped off the list. They're just below the top 20. And that was thanks in large part to a number of high-profile legal settlements by their family-owned corporation, Purdue Pharma. So yeah, they were held accountable, but barely. They're still number 30 on the billionaire list. The other statistic that I thought was interesting in this particular report, and here's a quote: between March 18th, 2020 and April 12th, 2021, the collective wealth of the American billionaires leapt by 1.62 trillion. That was during the pandemic. And 1/3 of US billionaire wealth grew over the last 30 years. Their wealth growth over the last 30 years came last year. So 1/3 wiped out all the growth that they had before and just took it to the moon. So that's nearly 45% of the nation's top 719 billionaires. They all came from the financial sector. That's 184 of them came from finance and stock, and just 13 came from technology. So what they were doing under the Trump administration, you thought it was a bunch of MAGA people that brought Trump in. No, because one thing that everyone has noticed, and even if you're on the left and you hate Trump, Trump was really good for Wall Street. Really good for Wall Street. If you are fortunate enough to have a 401k, you probably saw some growth there. Problem is you can't really eat a 401k. You can't pay your rent with a 401k. But the donor class was making bank, which is why we have, I didn't check the numbers this morning. I know it's well over 600,000 families are planning for funeral expenses or paying off funeral expenses at the same time they're paying for medical bills for the family members who have died during the pandemic. And again, my family's one of them. So those people were making money while we were dying. And they're still making money while we're dying. So this other slide, and I want to get to it before we run out of time and then get to some of the comments. Andy, this is the pandemic shield for CEOs. So right now we're having the conversation about people being lazy and not wanting to work, and companies out there trying to hire people for bullshit wages, and really complaining about it. Here's the other side of the story that this particular Inequality.org covered, and this is from the report Pandemic Pay Plunder, called The Low Wage Workers Lost Hours, Jobs, and Lives. Their employers bent the rules. And it was to pump up the CEO paycheck. So this was written by Sarah Anderson and Sam Pizziagati. And I included a link to this report. But this particular chart, I thought, speaks volumes. So these are these really big companies who were throwing a fit about having people work virtually, or didn't want to pay people, or, oh my God, they're making more on unemployment than they are with us. How awful is this? The 100 S&P 500, the top 100 S&P 500 companies, these are publicly traded companies on the S&P stock exchange, who had the lowest median pay in 2020, rigged the rules over all of the CARES Act and everything else to make sure that they padded the CEO pay while their own workers were dying. Can I say that any clearer? So so the CEO pay on average went to 15 million, while median workers were at 28,000. 28, that's not even $15 an hour. So the ratio last year, while we were dying, and we still have a pandemic, was 830 to 1. So I bring this up.
That's insane. That's your labor paying for that differential. Yeah. That is your sweat and tears in the marketplace paying for that differential.
Yeah, literally your blood, sweat, and tears on this. So I bring this up because one of the things that I would personally like to start talking about, I haven't covered it with Andy, but worker strike coming up October 15th.
Right.
This is why I believe so strongly in it, because this again goes back to reclaim your power. You have so much power. The GDP, when they start crying about the deficit and money and all of that, that is you. That is your work. Our productivity as American workers has not declined. It has gone through the roof. What hasn't moved is our pay and our benefits, because it's all going to the top. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, their policies are enabling this. And this is why they fight against progressives so strongly. This is why. So it's my personal pledge that I will do everything I can to help educate you. And if you want to run for office and take over your local city council, damn it, I will help you, because you have the power here. It is entirely possible for you and 10 rowdy friends to take over your local Democratic County party and make it truly a left party. You can. And I want to show you how to do this, because while we're bitching on Twitter and Facebook, we're dying in the streets. So I need you to see all of this and maybe think about running for office. And God love those of you who want to step up and run for Congress your first time out. Okay. No, that is not where the power is. And I got to tell you, the power is in your county, your city, all of it is where the power is. Because, as I said again, my adopted state, the way that it works here, every progressive policy, think about it, name a progressive policy with the exception of federal jobs guarantee and Medicare for all. Every other policy is in effect here, including raising the minimum wage. It's already done. And every year it's going up. It's done
And
here.
I think
How
we
do we
have
do
to
it?
we reiterate again, Kerri, just in case, New Mexico is a part of the US, not Mexico.
Right. New Mexico, part of the Four Corners, right below Colorado, next to Arizona.
By the way, Kerri,
US.
I have a
Yeah.
business idea that I wanted to float past you. And the whole concept is putting together a factory that gives gifts to billionaires. And you know what those gifts will be?
Cookbooks?
Nope. The gifts will be penis rockets that don't come back.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. Yep. Oh, let's do it. And in fact, we need to work on our cookbook. And for I don't know if you can see it, and I'm not going to be flashing the girls on screen, but I am wearing Rome's t-shirt, Eat the Rich, which I love. It's snarky, and I included a link. It's a fantastic t-shirt. Go get one to help support Rome. But yeah, eat the rich. This is my new mantra. I'm adopting this, and this is why. But yeah. So just to get back to New Mexico, the reason we were able to put together all of these policies here in the state, including ending qualified immunity for everybody, is because we got rid of the neoliberals in the state house. So our governor, who is lovely, hi, she's a neoliberal. But the reason she signed all of these things into law within the last few months is because behind her are a bunch of badass progressives on the left and the right who put these laws together. She had no choice. That is our power. So I want to show you how to do it in your state because as we saw from the Medicare for All, we had two Congress members who acknowledged that we were out in the streets. It is time to stop begging. It is time to stop asking them to do their jobs. It is time to stop asking them to listen to us. Reclaim your power. It's your job. This is what your civic duty means. You have work to do. So let's get it done. So I can't see any of the comments, Andy. Anything going on? People saying I'm crazy, they agree, they don't.
There is a complete cornucopia of comments this morning. And I'm sorry, I don't usually use alliteration, but today I will make an exception because we have just an unbelievably, amazingly sentient group of people out there that are talking about all of this in very specific details and really are really making me proud to read what ones I can. You have to excuse my I'm a little dyslexic, so I read very slowly. The comments are speaking for themselves. And if you don't, you need to go on to our Fred Hampton Leftist channel on YouTube and check these out because there's a great conversation going on right now. And shout out to everybody that's involved in it. Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome. Okay, excellent. So so if you were just tuning in for the first time on our show, this is kind of how we lean into facts and data because it doesn't lie, and showing you how to put this stuff together for yourself. Because we need you to be there. We need you to be, obviously most of our watchers are pretty smart as it is, but we need to get to that next step because this is year 8 of a, extinction level event on our climate change. So we need you to get there like yesterday. And for those of you who are just tuning in and trying to figure out what the hell is going on, we're going to do more of this. And then later this week, we have not one but two candidates that we're going to bring to you that swear they are deeply progressive. One of them I know from organizing and activism in Chicago. The other one is brand new. So we are going to challenge them. You're running for Congress. Why? And how can we be sure that we support you and don't have you end up getting a nice little bear hug from Mama Bear and turning into a neoliberal once you get to Congress? So we're definitely going to challenge them. No softball interviews here, but look for that coming up on Wednesday and on Friday. And then, of course, this particular topic today was brought to us by one of our viewers. So thank you, Johnny Hill, for that. If you have a topic that you want us to discuss and you want us to do a little bit of a deep dive on it to kind of pull it apart, we only have an hour, but sometimes we can split it into 3. So do weigh in on the comments or send us an email at hairofthedogshow@gmail.com, and we'll put that on the list. So thank you very much to Johnny and for everyone who's tuning in. Andy, words of wisdom, any good dad jokes you want to share? Or
Well, I'm going to forego the dad jokes today. I just wanted to just quickly mention again, we are members of the Fred Hampton Leftists. And if you like the content you see, please like and share or comment or click the subscribe button and make sure that you get all of our updates, because we are algorithmized to the teeth in the current environment. But this group is doing some amazing things, and we're absolutely privileged to be a part of it. So please, if you could spare a couple of bucks, we'd really appreciate it. Especially with us, it goes a long, long way. And on top of that, just wanted to say, again, kudos to all of the organizers of the March for Medicare for All. Fantastic job, everyone. And all of our teammates and all of the different speakers that took the time to go down there and talk on behalf of that in 56 different cities across the United States. It was wonderful. If you couldn't make to the march, make sure that you elevate those voices. Make sure that you like and share those people that did, because there were some amazing speeches. They were absolutely heartfelt and just tearjerkers, and they were certainly impassioned. They need to be elevated. If you are not part of that group and you are talking smack about March for Medicare for All, then I'm sorry, but you're complicit with medical debt and murder and, homelessness, poverty. You got to choose your choice. You got to choose your side, because this is very important, especially in a pandemic. Americans do not deserve to go bankrupt because they get sick or injured. It's time for America to join the rest of the free world and offer free health care to everyone. Everyone. Kerri, again, thank you for your due diligence and your amazing reporting and your journalism skills. Second to none. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you spending the time with us. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we will see you here bright and early on Wednesday morning. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keeping it G. Whoa.